Hey, this video is brought to you by Squarespace. Thanks, Squarespace. Yay. So Noah, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing really well. Yeah.
Good.
How are you, Thomas?
So I'm really, really good, man, and I appreciate you being willing to take the time to chat.
Definitely.
There's so much to learn from you. And I think we talked a couple weeks ago, and I was just sort of baffled by how young you were.
Yeah.
Because I'm like 29 years old, going on 30 in a couple months. And I can't remember how old are you?
20. Recently turned 20, actually, yeah.
You're 20 years old, and you are a full-time game dev and YouTuber. And you're living the dream that so many members in our audience, so many subscribers want to live. And I think that is so cool. So I was wondering if you wanted to just sort of tell, I guess, your audience and my audience what you do for a living and how you got there. What's your story?
So, as you said, I'm a full-time game developer and YouTuber at the moment. I also make Udemy courses with my brother, which is just basically like my YouTube tutorials, except in a much longer format where I try to create a whole game. But yeah, I'm really just breathing and living and eating game creation, and it's excellent. I started about 3 years ago now, YouTube game development, and I believe, wait a second, was it 2 years? Yeah, it was 2 years ago YouTube. So 3 years ago game dev, 2 years ago YouTube, and it's just been a real blast, honestly. Actually, what am I saying? Wait, I really got a doubt suddenly. Is it actually 3 years ago that I started YouTube? Let me make sure. Oh my goodness. Yes, it was 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Okay.
Man, dude. So when did you, this is crazy. So I don't know you're in France, by the way, right?
That's right. Yeah, south of France.
Okay. So I don't know, do you call it high school in France? Were you in high school
yes,
a couple years ago? Okay.
So I started my YouTube channel during the last year of high school.
Okay. So, I mean, to me, it's an interesting, I was thinking about this call, and I was thinking something that I wanted to touch on briefly was, you seem to understand how to be an entrepreneur. You know how to, I guess, do things that are profitable so that you can remain a full-time game developer. And I had no idea how to do any of that when I was 20. When I was 20, I was in college. And I was in college. And I was sort of going the traditional route to start a career. And I didn't even think I was going to be a full-time game developer. I wanted to be, but I guess I didn't believe it was possible. So I'm curious if you can give our listeners an understanding of how you knew how to do that. How do you know how to be an entrepreneur? Is there research you've done? Did you take a class on it? Was it how you were raised? How do you know all this stuff?
It's an interesting question. But honestly, I kind of, happened very slowly but surely, I would say. When I just started, I really wasn't at all thinking of, I kind of wanted to turn game dev into my full-time thing after high school. And I'd already, looked at a lot of other game dev YouTubers. And I knew it was possible. You didn't need necessarily a formal education to learn how to create games and live doing it. But yeah, I just started really just kind of slowly but surely making videos and building up that passion. And I really say it's just the love of doing it that gave me that made me grow this audience. And then I started to see all these opportunities coming my way, which I made the most of. Luckily, yeah. But I didn't actually just take a course on entrepreneurship or anything. It's just, I enjoyed creating games. I wanted to find out really how to continue doing this. And, bit by bit, I found out with YouTube ad revenue, then Patreon, Udemy courses. And these are all things that I took ideas from all kinds of people. Brackies, for example, the Game Dev YouTube channel. I saw he set up a Patreon account, and I said, that's a really fun, cool way to earn some money. So that was the really first way I earned some cash. Really, my first dollars were made with Patreon. And then I realized, why not put some adverts? It doesn't really bother me, so shouldn't bother the audience too much either. So I put those. and yeah, all these little sources of income began accumulating, and before I knew it, I had a really nice salary. And I said, "Oh, excellent! I can continue doing this full time."
Do you think, when I just started making indie games I guess I was 20, so it's been about a decade of me making indie games. When I first started, I was watching the indie game documentary, which I'm sure you've seen.
Definitely, yeah.
And in my head, all I thought was, well, if I want to make games for a living, that's what I need to do, just make games. But I'm learning that, and what I'm advising my audience, whether it's my YouTube channel or the online course I'm working on, what I advise my audience to do is not just make indie games, but do a lot of different things at once, and not put all of your eggs in one basket, but instead, focus on a lot of different revenue opportunities.
That's a really good
even
piece
if it's
of advice,
small.
yeah.
I'm curious if what your advice is for your audience and my audience.
Yeah, it's a much more reliable way of earning a steady flow of income when you're relying on different sources, which has really worked well for me anyway. And so I can mostly only speak from my experience. The only game I actually sold, because I've made dozens of small games during game jams and just to learn new tools or coding and stuff. But I actually released my very first Steam game called The Dreadful Whispers. It was September of 2019, and that made me about $15,000. So that's not a huge amount of money for
right.
I mean, it's still okay for a first game, I guess.
Right.
But thankfully, while making the devlog videos and having the Udemy courses and all that, really gave me enough money to make the game, to learn so many things, and so now I've got skills that will hopefully help me to make even better games, and perhaps one day really make a lot more with just games.
Right.
But in the meantime, if you're a beginner, you'll start making games as your full-time job by just making videos about your progress from kind of zero to hero. Just show how you're learning stuff through YouTube, for example, like you and I, Thomas, we've done many YouTube videos. And just show that, be honest that you're not really good yet, but that you're learning. And post every week, just a little video, even if it's just stickmen and it's not really interesting or fun. But if there's passion behind it and you're really willing to learn and you're asking your community for advice, that I really think is possible to build up an audience, even if you're not that great at game dev just yet.
Yeah. Do you think you would have finished Dreadful Whispers if you had a full-time job at it, like a desk job in a cubicle somewhere? Do you feel like you would have finished that game at the quality that you had released it? Or do you feel like you wouldn't have had the time to do it?
Oh, hard to tell, really. I hope, I like to believe that I would finish it. I really think finishing something you start is really important.
Yes.
But it's hard to tell. It's really quite tough. It would have been harder, for sure.
Yeah. Do you recommend to your audience and my audience to start right now securing various revenue streams as opposed to just focusing on learning game development? Do you recommend they launch a Patreon, get their social media going, maybe start a YouTube channel or do some online courses? What do you recommend?
Hard to say. Yeah, I think if you've got an actual day job that you're actually enjoying and game dev is just more of a hobby, then that's probably fine. But if you want to turn game dev as your full-time thing right now, then you definitely should start finding a way to make some money on the side so you can continue working on your game. Yeah. So I think there's so many ways, like Kickstarter, like you did, Thomas, for Pinstripe.
Right.
Or finding a publisher. But YouTube's a really easy, nice way to start if you've got zero skills and you don't have the actual skills to make a really awesome looking game to sell people on Kickstarter. So that's what's brilliant about the social media like Twitter, YouTube. You can be pretty lame at game dev, but if you're showing the willingness to improve, then you could start doing really well.
Right. Do you think that you would be doing YouTube and Udemy? Let's pretend your next game makes $3 million. Would you drop YouTube and Udemy right away and just focus on making games? Or would you continue making Udemy courses and YouTube videos?
Oh, all these good questions, man. I really think I probably would make less Udemy courses.
Yeah.
Because for now I'm making lots of like single Udemy courses on making a platformer game, on making an action top-down shooter, a 2D.
No way, dude.
Yeah.
How many courses do you have?
Currently 3, and me and my brother we're working on the 4th one right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I need to credit my brother for helping me out with the courses. Great help there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would continue YouTube, and oh man, if I made 3 million, I would love to tell the story and be able to help others do the same. It would definitely it would be nice.
Exactly.
And
for me, like, go ahead.
I definitely will one day. Like the day I make a massive success, could be in 10 years and stuff. I'll be so eager to share that story and like encourage others to go for it.
Okay, guys, before we get started, this video is brought to you by Squarespace. Believe it or not, I've been wanting Squarespace as a sponsor for so long, mainly because Squarespace is awesome. I've been using Squarespace for, I think, 6 years. Both my websites, thomasbrush.com and atmosgames.com, where I host my games and my portfolio, my resume, all that cool stuff is hosted on Squarespace. It was created with Squarespace. Squarespace is cool because you can look amazing, you can have custom designs, and pretty much do anything you need to do for your business or your own personal brand, all with Squarespace, and you don't have to know how to code. So if you guys are interested in creating a website with Squarespace, click the link below, squarespace.com/thomasbrush, and use the promo code thomasbrush for 10% off. Yay, I love Squarespace, I really do. Thanks, Squarespace. So tell me about Dreadful Whispers. There's a lot of questions I have about it, and by the way, it's beautiful. You did a really great job.
Thank you, Thomas.
And congrats on the success. I mean, this is the first real indie title, correct? Like your first commercial release?
Yeah. I'm just so happy that I've completed it.
It's huge, dude, because there's so many YouTubers out there, indie game developers, who haven't done that.
I know,
And I think it's really important if you're going to be telling people how to make games that you've done it, and that you've not only like released small game jam games, but full-on games on Steam. I think is really important. So I'm curious, there's a lot of questions I have about Dreadful Whispers, but one of the main ones is, how much time did you dedicate? Did you have a schedule for making this game? Because I know you were doing a lot of other things to secure income streams.
Yes.
I'm curious how much time you felt justified, or how justified you were in putting in, like, say, 15 hours a week in this game.
So I started the game in December of 2018, and I launched it in September. So that's about
awesome, dude.
10 months roughly. But it was
that's great.
Yeah, but it was far from full time. Like, I really probably, if I was like a robot and you just worked all the time, I could have finished maybe in 4 months, I would say, 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Maybe half the time I spent. But yeah, as you said, a lot of time was spent on YouTube videos or Udemy courses. And there were also a few weeks where I just really didn't feel motivated and I didn't work on the game at all, which I think is quite hard. I mean, obviously you could probably relate to this, where you've got some times where you just don't work on your project, you burn out a little bit on it.
Oh, yeah.
But,
yeah, and that's why I'm focusing on doing my course right now, which is called Full-Time Game Dev. It's nice to take a break from making games. I don't know if you felt that way after Dreadful Whispers. Like, I need to just stop a little bit and maybe do something that's kind of boring, and then maybe jump into game dev in a couple months, you know?
Sure. Actually, there was a great piece of advice you gave in one of your videos, which I really loved, and it was during a period where game dev was, because it's hard to, even if you know you love game dev deep down, there are always going to be periods where you're kind of tempted to try something else. Like in my case, I've been really interested in the idea of just trying acting or writing a book or something. Things are they're still creative, but very different from game development. And then you made that little movie, that small film, that little horror movie that was really well done. And
thank you.
Yeah, man, you took a month off, I think, or you said you took
some time off. I think it was 2 months. It was like investing $5,000 or $6,000 for equipment, and then 2 months off, which that's another couple grand or more for my salary. So it was a weird investment, because it was like, do I want to take close to $10,000 or whatever, I don't remember the exact budget. Do I want to spend that on something that I know is not going to make money? And for me, the answer was yes. It's kind of like I don't know if you feel this way maybe with your friends or your family or your brother, but for me, like being married, sometimes you need to maybe go on a trip alone or spend some time away from something you really, truly love, because I guess distance is going to make the heart grow fonder.
Yes,
and for
you'll realize how much you love it after a break. You'll say, man, this is really great, in fact, when sometimes you just take it for granted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for me, like last year, I grew honestly really resentful towards making games. Like I felt, I made a video about it. Like I wanted to quit.
Yeah.
It almost felt like I was working a desk job for a boss. And I don't have a boss, but I felt like I did. It was like another version of me.
I totally relate to that. It can sometimes even feel worse than having a boss. You can be such a terrible boss to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, man. And you never feel like you can fully get off the clock or clock out. And so for me, I just needed to force myself to do something else. So I made a short horror film called The Man in the Cradle. And I was really pleased with the response, and we actually licensed it to
a pretty popular YouTube channel. I think I remember.
It was what's it called? Crypt TV. And that was like really fun. But what was so cool is after I finished it, I was like, oh man, I'm ready to make another game. Awesome. And so I jumped right back into like another 4 or 5 month stretch of just game development. And now I'm taking another break, and I'm learning that you can sort of have multiple projects sort of hanging out unfinished. Just as long as you need to finish them, it's okay to have like 2 or 3 just hanging out there. I don't know if you do that.
I'm thinking of doing that more actually than I do. Just the benefit of having multiple projects is that, if you lose motivation on one, hopefully you might be more inspired to tackle the other. And vice versa. So that could actually be really great. I don't do that much in terms of games. I usually have just one game project going at a time, and maybe I take part in small game jams during the development of a bigger project. But then I guess I have YouTube and Udemy, which kind of act as other projects that I can switch to if I don't feel too eager to jump into full Unity game dev.
Right. So what are you currently working on right now?
So it's Dashing Fire. It's my second game that I'm going to release on Steam. Been working on it since December, and I have been very, very slow in progress these past 2 months. Kind of just like a lack of motivation, I would say, all in all. But I'm recovering it, thankfully, and I'm really been working on these last few weeks. I've been working on it again. But yeah, it's super hard to avoid just losing motivation. It's even if you know all the good tips and stuff, it's gonna hit you at some point, and it hit me.
It's just normal, It's like absolutely normal to lose motivation, and to feel like it's suddenly become a normal desk job.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, game devs talk about all the time, like quitting their desk job. But the thing is every job is basically a desk job nowadays. Like you're going to be sitting and you're going to be grinding. And I guess what makes it not a traditional quote unquote desk job is the idea that you're free.
Yeah,
like you are free to be able to do what you want, you know?
That is a beautiful thing. And what attracted me so much to indie game development in the first place, to be able to have all this freedom, create my own world, whatever I want. It's pretty magical.
Well, I remember we had a phone call. I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
You and I just chatted, and I think you mentioned this to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you've kind of learned to take it easy on yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. Are you taking a break from like social media? Is that what you had mentioned?
Taking a much bigger break than I was. It's not like a full-on break, but I just not going on it so as impulsively as I used to. I limit myself to like in the morning checking usually emails and Twitter and YouTube, and then I just really force myself to not go on it for the whole day, and it's excellent.
Wow.
Really, it's great. It's no point really going on it throughout the entire day. For me anyway, I don't feel there's any point. It just makes things more stressful and so distracting. Last year, I was just so distracted. It was unbelievable. Every hour I would go at least 3 times on Twitter. Just like a habit. I was completely addicted.
Oh man, dude, me too. Me too, man.
It's
so yeah, like that sense of freedom isn't really there
Sometimes
like the
not.
moment you, yeah, like the moment you quit your job or the moment you're done being a student and you go into full-time game dev, suddenly, especially if you're building a community like you and I are, suddenly your community becomes your boss. And
Yes,
they
really
start
true.
to drive your feelings and your anxiety and your attitude. Is that part of the reason why you took a break? Like you just didn't want to feel that pressure?
I think partly yes, partly because I just wanted to be able to find that magic of being able just to work on my game for several hours straight without looking at whatever everybody else was making or saying. The distraction aspect, and also just that feeling that there's this huge invisible audience looking at whatever I do, which is kind of like now I don't feel that at all anymore. Like I'm good, and that's just partly. I mean, it's completely because I'm so much less on social media. But if you push it too much, it can become like this invisible audience constantly checking you out, and I think it hinders creativity.
I think it does.
Yeah, I think it depends maybe on your personality and stuff. Maybe some would thrive on having just an audience all like constantly on you. But I do like just my space, a couple like just nobody watching, and then only when it's done I can like show it. Which is not too easy though, because that's one way I'm marketing my game is by making devlogs, usually quite consistently. So even if the work is not fully ready, I kind of have to show it, to keep up those devlogs, keep the audience interested. And that's a bit annoying sometimes. I don't want to show a work in progress because I know it's flawed, and I don't like seeing like the comments pointing out obvious things that are wrong with the game. But that's something you get used to, and it's okay. It's actually quite good for feedback can be awesome. So. Devlogs, like the benefits of devlogs are excellent. I think they're much. They beat all the inconveniences. Just having there's so much motivation that comes with having people push you on, and their feedback can actually be really useful. It can be not useful, but it can also be can help you improve your work. I've found.
Yeah, and I found that even I talked about this with David Whaley. I don't know if you saw that
Great
podcast.
Talk. I did. I didn't see
Thank
all
you.
of it, but I heard some bits, and it was excellent.
Yeah, he's brilliant, man. He's brilliant. But we talked about just sort of growing a thicker skin, and especially in game development, I'm learning that it's especially important to learn to take criticism, even if it's really obnoxious, almost bullying criticism. Even silly stuff about like maybe how you look on camera. Yeah. Like those kinds of things are super important to learn to be okay with, because I've learned that releasing indie games is one of the most intimate things to reveal about yourself. It's
incredible, yeah.
So I'm curious other than wish lists, is there any data points that you can look at from your game, your recent release, and can you look at any of that data and maybe share it with the audience? Like, you don't have to open it up if you don't want, but I'm just curious.
Oh man, I'm always so fascinated in other people, releasing their data and showing what they, how sales did and stuff. 'Cause it's so useful for other people as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally. I'm all for sharing some stats. So I better go in Steamworks.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm curious if you sold as many copies as you expected, less than you expected.
So less than I expected. So I don't know where I got this stat. I think for some reason I thought that maybe 50% of my wish lists would turn into actual sales.
Yeah, I read that too.
So when I had like 6,000 wish lists at launch, I was quite sure I was going to get 3,000 sales at least. There are like 3,000 copies sold. When in fact I think during the first week I got about 1,000 copies sold, if I remember well.
Yeah.
And I actually made a whole video about that, which is, if I think, my second most popular video, which goes to show how people are craving, learning about stats and money.
They want to hear how much money they're going to make. That's a good thing to want to know, because a lot of our audiences, and I'm opening up my Steamworks as well that was
really great. I saw your video about, I think, a week or maybe 2 weeks after Neversong release. You shared some stats, which was fascinating.
But then I had to delete the effing video because
Ouch.
PC Gamer did a whole article about how I accidentally sent 4,000 keys to my backers, and that was just a small portion of the video. But PC Gamer did a whole article about how I had released 4,000 keys, and so that was one reason why I was like, I'm not gonna have this video posted. But I also there was some data in that video that I wasn't allowed to share per some NDAs. And so I had to remove that video, but the same thing happened for you. Like that video went gangbusters because so many people want to know how things are going.
750,000 views, which is massive.
Dude, that's crazy. Really?
Yeah, it's my second most popular video. The first is pixel arts, and then this one's the second. Yeah. And so it just is massive, and the responses are so positive. People love the transparency and the honesty. Obviously, my game was small, and I didn't make a fortune with it, and so I didn't have any problems revealing my stats with other people. But it was really interesting, and it would be greght. It's actually Tim Ruswick that inspired me to just to share my stats as well. When he showed his on Philophobia, which was his game. They released on itch.io. But really great.
So did you? I'm looking at my data right now. I'm curious if your wish lists right now currently are double what they were when you launched.
So yes, they are actually.
Okay, that is the data point. I haven't seen anyone say that, but it's same thing for me. They're all basically double.
Yeah, I've got 12,000 now.
Yep.
12,612.
Yep. And so for me, I pushed really hard for Wishlist. So I had about 27,000 on launch, and now they're kind of double, 41,000, so 42,000.
Oh wow, yeah.
And so
there's a lot of wish lists. There's a lot of wish lists, and so I wonder if those will over time, bit by bit, turn into actual sales.
I don't know, man. I don't know if they're going to convert. I really don't, because I'm looking at Pinstripe right now. Let me open that up. Mm-hmm. And Pinstripes, dude, the wish list for Pinstripe are 75,000.
Wow.
Now, am I gonna sell even like what's the conversion rate supposed to be? Like, is it?
I heard 50%, but I think that's completely wrong. I mean,
wait,
it really
50%
depends on so many factors.
I think that's only for your launch day.
Maybe.
I've heard that 50% of your wish list on launch day will convert, something like that. But
I think that's really maybe a really good scenario.
Yeah. Whereas I think it's like supposed to be like 10 to 15% total.
Yeah.
Over time. So if I get my calculator out.
Oh, okay.
If I get my calculator out and I calculate 75,000 wish lists, selling the game on average, right now I'm selling it for like $2-3 because it's always on sale, really cheap. So if I sell 15% of those, that's 11,000 copies times, what did I just say, $5? $3?
Yeah.
$3. That's $33,000. And I just don't know if that's going to happen. So
yeah, it's hard to say, and that's $33,000 without like Steam taking a share and tax
and
stuff.
Publisher, because I have publishers, so they take a cut.
Oh, also yeah.
So
it's tough. Making money on Steam, it can be pretty tough. Yeah, as I found out.
And I think this just goes to show like it's really important to not hang your like hold on too tightly to what you expect your wish list to do, because sometimes it just doesn't happen.
Sure.
I
know. It's it's tricky. It's like it's good to be motivated by money and stuff. Actually, that's something quite interesting you said with David in your previous podcast, and you said it's kind of like okay to be motivated by money or views or stats.
I think it helps. I think
actually, it's so fascinating because for quite a long time. For some reason, I had this very purist attitude, and I felt really quite guilty if I was feeling if I was feeling motivated by money, even if it was only partially. I felt like that I shouldn't be motivated at all by that. For some reason, I just thought that. And
same thing, man. Same thing. When I was 25, I thought that way, and now I'm like, no, bring on the cash, because it's so much easier to be objective about your game, and finish it and get things done. And honestly, I'm a bit of a capitalist myself, but it's so much easier to release content that your audience likes, because I guess it's a double-edged sword, like most things. But when you're motivated by money, you tend to be like, okay, well, how do I get my audience to buy this game? What do they want? And then you put stuff in that game that you think your audience is going to like because you want to make some money. And so it kind of works out that way, but that also means that you're going to sell out maybe. If you care too much about money, you might sell out and make junky games.
It's like a fine balance you need to strike between having obviously that passion and wanting to create a game that you like and you enjoy doing it. But it was really soothing to hear. It was just nice and refreshing to hear. Actually, it really was just to hear that it's okay, to be kind of motivated by
isn't that a weird thing?
Things like
it's
just
soothing.
Money
it's soothing and refreshing to hear.
It's weird,
yeah.
It was for such a long time. Yeah, for such a long time I was feeling guilty about that. About like YouTube stats and saying, I shouldn't be looking at the numbers, and it shouldn't matter if I get 100,000 anyway. It's just like a number. What's important is the journey and all that.
Well, I always say that human beings should live their life like they're in an RPG. They should always be looking to advance and upgrade. And I love, like, I'm looking at my Steam stats right now, and there's just nothing more exciting than looking through stats and seeing growth, or maybe seeing decline and thinking, okay, what can I do to do better?
It actually gives me joy. Yeah, it really does bring on a certain excitement, when you see these stats and you wonder how you can increase them and you compare them. If you do it too much, it could be unhealthy, but I think, if you find that good balance, it's perfectly good to be interested in these things and be partly, motivated about it.
I think one of the biggest problems that human beings have in general, and I don't want to get too philosophical here, but one of our biggest problems as human beings is we don't believe in nuance anymore. Everything is so polarized in black and white in this world. And for me, I'm learning I'm the same way with game development. It's like you're either a purist and you make games solely to tell a story and to change the world, or you're a jackass capitalist just trying to make money. Make a bunch of Flappy Bird clones. And I'm like, no, can we have some nuance here? Is it possible to, and this is what David is really good at, David Whaley. And I guess we'll just link his podcast in the description because he was really helpful. He's both an entrepreneur, somebody who...
And an art,
and an artist, He's an entrepreneur and an artist. He does both. And I think that is, look, if the majority of our audience is just trying to be a purist, they're not going to release games. So because it's never going to be what they thought it was going to be. And it's never going to, quote unquote, change the world. And so I think it's important to separate yourself from your game, not make it all about you, and also spend some time being an entrepreneur and maybe dream a little bit about making some money, because it might drive you to finish your game and do it right so that you don't have to be miserable the next game you make.
Exactly. I think it's just there's no reason to not be excited about these things if that's good for you. Of course, it's true that some people do find it hard, and I found it hard for a time, to meld kind of business and art, and not wanting to sell my soul to my audience, just wanting to make whatever I wanted and don't care about views or whatever else. But there is also a pleasure in trying to please others and like get that get people to really enjoy what you make. But it's about balance. It's just about finding that balance between what you need as a person. And as you said, it's all about nuance and not just black and white all the time.
Right, exactly. So I am curious. I'm looking here. Sorry to change the subject. I'm looking at what's your country breakdown, like, if you don't mind me asking.
So let me check.
Is it primarily United States and United Kingdom?
It is, actually. Quite a lot of Germany.
Okay, same here. 5% for me.
And Australia, New Zealand, interestingly.
Yep.
So,
wow, New Zealand. I don't have New Zealand on here at all. That's crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like United States, unsurprisingly, is the target market for game developers.
It is. It's the biggest part of my YouTube audience as well. It's from the United States.
Yeah, so you're in France.
I am.
You're native. You natively speak French, correct?
I do. So I've lived in France my whole life, but my mum is Scottish, so I was speaking mostly English growing up. French was just at school.
Okay, so is your accent French and Scottish mixed?
Probably something like that.
Okay, I've been curious about what it is because I mean, I don't know a lot about the French accent, but it doesn't sound completely French to me.
No, I don't think I don't think I speak English with a French accent at all. It's probably just a weird mix between my different Scottish a bit and French. Yeah,
that's so cool. I think it's beautiful. I think it's like super unique. I would say it's probably one of many reasons why your YouTube channel is successful. Like when I first watched the first video I saw of yours, I was like, this guy has such an interesting voice.
Oh man, my very first videos actually, I was really almost wasn't conscious of it, but I had a very exaggerated voice. I maybe exaggerated it even more. Like I was articulating every word so much and trying to sound passionate, and excited. Maybe I pushed it a bit. So I've kind of toned down a little.
It's literally, I heard you talking that way and I hit subscribe because I was like,
man.
the world needs more articulation, and I think you're a really articulate guy.
It kind of became part of my brand, I would say.
Yeah.
And maybe a lot of people actually really liked that. I obviously got a few people saying, why the hell are you speaking like that? This is so weird. Stop it. But a lot of people, I think, really do like the articulate, completely, I think, have unique narration of my tutorials or devlogs. So hearing my videos again is kind of funny.
So I am curious, Noah, so your target market's the United States for both your YouTube channel and your games. I'm curious because the only places I've been to Europe is Italy and Iceland, and I know that those two places they're probably not anything like France. So my perspective of let's say France, it's probably only formed from like movies and television. And I'm curious if your view of the United States and who your target market is, do you think it's accurate? Have you had experiences in the United States to, I guess, understand your target market?
So the thing, I've never actually been to the US, and that's something I'm wanting to do in the following years for sure. I'm so interested in just exploring this country. But I guess a lot of my idea of who my audience is through just videos, movies, the YouTubers I follow, like yourself, like Tim Ruswick, and all kinds of other guys. But I just got like a really positive view of the Americans. I think it's like a really great, cool country.
Really? I'm so surprised to hear that because, so the way Americans view Europe's perception of America is we think Europe hates America. I'm completely wrong, but
maybe a few people. I doubt the majority.
Yeah,
no, I don't think so.
So does America lead the charge when it comes to game development and social media? Does Europe follow America?
So the French people I know, it's true they mostly follow other French YouTubers, for example.
Right.
But I think America does place a lot of trends and has I think carries a lot of the thing forward.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't really be sure. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. I think that. Yeah, it just depends on the person really and what he follows and stuff. But me, even though I live in France, I'm mostly just really, I think, quite deep into the American culture, or at least I feel like I am.
Yeah.
Since I follow a lot of American YouTubers and watch a lot of American films, play games made in America.
Okay.
So yeah.
So that's something I've always been curious about because I don't really do this anymore, and maybe we can talk about this. I don't really go to any of the conferences anymore, like GDC or PAX, any of those things, IndieCade, IGF. I don't go to those anymore. I just sort of stay in my hometown. I live kind of near Atlanta. I don't know if you know where Atlanta is.
Let me check right now.
Atlanta is like the southern Hollywood. So there's Hollywood on the West Coast, and then there's Atlanta. And I live kind of near Atlanta. And other than sometimes going to Atlanta or something, I kind of just stick around here in my hometown. I don't really go to any conferences or anything like that. But when I used to go to conferences, because I thought they were valuable, and I don't think they are anymore, and maybe we can talk about that. But when I used to go to conferences, people from all over the world, game devs, I met a lot of, guys from Finland. I got to hang out with some guys from Finland, and I think Sweden as well, some French guys as well. They would spend like $10,000 to fly over to the United States and create a trip out of it.
Yes.
To go to these conferences. And I'm curious if they just saw so much value in putting their games and their mark in America. And a lot of them were trying to move here. And I'm just curious if you have that feeling, if you feel like it's valuable, or maybe you don't.
So I've only really been for now to one game dev sort of conference, and that was Unity Unites in Copenhagen.
Right, right.
So that obviously much closer to home than the United States. And that's actually Unity who paid me. They paid the hotel, they paid everything. That was incredible.
Yeah,
so
they did that for me to go to GDC in Los Angeles.
Yes, so that was really
San
cool.
Francisco, yeah.
Since it was my first time, I felt it was valuable, mostly just to be able to hang out with other game developers. That was the main takeaway for me, was to be able to laugh and talk and share stories with other creators. That was fantastic. After whether I would purely go just to America to like spend thousands and thousands just to go to GDC for pure business point of view, I probably wouldn't. I would just go just to have a good time and make a holiday out of it and visit America. It does sound tempting to me now. Having not gone to many, it does sound quite exciting. I feel like it would be great to be just surrounded by game developers and maybe meet some of my game dev heroes. Sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
But I can understand that it's not maybe the most like the best thing. So why are you not like too keen on these conferences?
I just get exhausted. It's at this point saying that I'm an introvert is kind of cringy because everybody says they're an introvert. But for me, especially game developers, like all of them are introverts. It's probably why they want to be game developers, so that the rest of the world will shut up and they can just make their game. But
that is a good theory.
But for me, going to these conferences, like the one PAX in Boston was probably the most exhausted I've ever been, because I stood at my booth for what was it, like 4 or 3 days, and you're just standing for 8 hours, just hanging out your booth, smiling and trying to talk to hundreds of people.
Yeah,
it's just exhausting. And maybe I should take back the idea that it wasn't valuable, because quite honestly, I met Serenity Forge at PAX. So
nice. Okay,
and that relationship was formed at PAX. But I'm at this point now where a lot of the perceptions of what I thought was valuable as a game developer, all of those things have been replaced by other things. So an example is, conferences, those kind of have been replaced by, I'd rather just do a podcast and meet people that way instead of flying out to these conferences. So I've met so many people by just doing podcasts and having, or even just meeting them privately on Skype and just talking. Like that for me is way more valuable, and it's free.
True.
Another thing that's been replaced is, I used to think that indie game competitions were so important, like to get that logo on your game. And I don't know, man. I don't know if it's as valuable as I thought it was. What do you think?
It does seem very prestigious anyway, from when you see like the IGF winners. And I mean, it's kind of like the Oscars of game dev for now. And it probably will get even more like, prestigious and stuff as the years go on, as games take up even more space in the world. It sounds cool. It feels cool. Winning those awards probably does feel nice. But it's not necessary to make a living out of games, and it's much less important than it might seem to be. So
I guess hindsight is 20/20, because I wish that instead of focusing so much on competitions and festivals, I wish I had just said, you know what, screw that. I'm just going to make a YouTube channel and build an audience, and then I can sell my games that way.
Exactly, it's an alternate road to go, and it's a great one, as we've seen.
So are there any aspects of like the glamour of being a game developer that you just disagree with? Like, is your career currently as an indie game developer, as a YouTuber, is that career as glamorous and as cool and as exciting as you thought it was? Does it meet the expectations, or is it completely different?
I think it feels like it constantly shifts. Like sometimes I feel like it is, and sometimes maybe less. Again, it's true that I definitely, when starting out, I envisioned working from home on my own quite differently than I do now. now I do realize that even though I like my peace and I like, a lot of freedom, I do realize like I need more people to work with, and it would do me a lot of good creatively, just for everything.
So you're lonely?
Perhaps a little, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's something I think I kind of like underestimated. I didn't think that would happen to me for some reason. I thought, no, it's impossible. This is too good anyway. But I think like all humans, we need a certain amount of socializing and being with others, which I completely messed up balance-wise. I messed up a little, but it's okay. I'm realizing that now.
You work with your brother though, right?
Yeah, sure. Which is good. It's good, but it's still family, and it's still family.
It's your brother.
Yeah,
I feel the same way about working with my brother. So
yeah. I kind of like need other people than just family, which would be nice.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm definitely in that situation now where, like, I live in, like I said, pretty close to Atlanta. So I'm in like the South, and it's got this small hometown feel. And I just hang out with my brothers all the time. I have 3 older brothers, and I have other friends as well, but I do spend so much time with my brothers, and they've helped craft what my games are all about. Because so cool. Growing up with them playing video games, it really shaped what sort of lit a fire in me about games. It was just that camaraderie, that brotherhood that I had with my family. Oh man, that's great.
I'm
curious
really
if you share that.
To your brothers.
What's that?
Are you really like close to your brothers then?
Oh yeah, we live within 10 minutes of each other, all 3 of us.
That's so nice. That's so cool.
Yeah, and we're like we all have kids and we're all married, and so it's almost like family. We didn't. Yeah, it's like we just sort of stuck together, and had kids and got married, but nothing. A lot has changed, but at the same time, not a lot has changed. And we still, when we hang out, we talk about video games, politics, that kind of stuff. Pretty much stuff we always talked about growing up, actually. Yeah, so I'm curious what that's like. If you don't mind sharing, if you do, sure. Then we can cut it out of the podcast. I'm just curious what it's like working with family. Oh,
it's usually excellent. I mean, I'm so grateful to have like this brother who's only 2 years younger than me, and so we're just like working together. It's I think having a brother is so nice, just to share different ideas and work together. It's great. After working with it, it's true that some people didn't recommend, especially when I started to get a little more successful and stuff, and just keep family and business separate. I was like, well, I was hearing a bit, and so far, I've not had any problems at all. I'm just so glad to be able to, to pay my brother nice large sums of money, because he's earned it. He's earned it helping with the Udemy courses. So I just write him a check every month, and so he can.
So he primarily helps you with the Udemy courses, correct?
That's what he does mostly at the moment. Yeah. Okay,
so do you mind if we talk a little bit about Udemy?
Oh, definitely.
Because, it's just so weird how all of the game developers I know are successful game developers, but they're also making courses. And to me, I'm like, what is this all about? Like, I didn't fully understand it. And for David, he's making a course. I'm now making a course. And it's not that I can't make games for a living. Like, it's not that I couldn't just say, I'm just going to make games.
Sure.
Because those are doing fine. They're supporting my family. But there's like this need and desire to
pass on some knowledge.
Yeah.
Pass on your,
yeah, because I've learned so much, and there's so many things that I wish I could tell people. Like, don't do what I did. Like, I did so many things wrong.
Especially where you're at in your career. There is so much you've accumulated, so much experience and knowledge and tricks that people could only benefit from that. It's incredible. And as you said before, you're very different from the guy who's teaching how to make games, but that hasn't actually made anything concrete yet. You have a solid, really, really impressive portfolio. So, I mean, it's great.
Same for you, man. Same for you. Like, you've done
so
much.
Bit by bit,
30 game jams and then your first commercial release. Have you thought about porting it to console?
I kind of did, but I still feel like a bit like a bit sick of the Dreadful Whisper at the moment, so I've not really thought too much about it.
Maybe you could hire somebody. Have you thought about doing that?
I have thought about doing that, actually. I've not thought about it for quite some time, but you're bringing that back to mind. And I don't think it would sell hugely, but maybe just for the experience, it could be worth it. Just to learn how to port on the Nintendo Switch and consoles, which I imagine is pretty tricky, right? You've done it quite a few times.
It's the worst. It's the absolute. It's the absolute worst. I haven't that's one area of my life that I'm like, I've never done that solo, and I will never do that solo. I hired Matt Ty at Do Games to do the port for Pinstripe to Nintendo Switch, Xbox, PlayStation.
Okay.
And Neversong's port was done by Serenity Forge and also some studio that they worked with. So but that doesn't mean that I didn't do anything. Like for Pinstripe, me and Matt sort of tag teamed. Even though I hired him to do it, we tag teamed a lot of the stuff. And dude, porting to console, it's basically like, the best way I could describe it is every company has a Bible that they give you, and it's the Bible of all of the things that you have to adhere to. So essentially, you have to join like 3 new religions and understand how to communicate in that cult and that group of people and how they like things done.
That's why I thought, that's why I feared, which is why I didn't even seriously consider it, because the Dreadful Whispers still is a smallish project, and I was just happy to port it on Steam. But if I do it, it will be with somebody else who's going to help me.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough.
I feel like the project is so messy too. It's the code is probably quite messy. It works fine on Steam.
My projects have terrible code.
Yeah, it works fine in Steam, but like Xbox and stuff, I don't know. It's going to crash.
I don't know, man. I wonder if you should give it a shot, because 2D games aren't that hard, like compared to 3D games. I can
imagine.
So I don't know.
Okay, maybe for the Dashing Fire. I already feel like Dashing Fire, it's a lot cleaner, and it's I'll see. But I'm gonna do it at some point. Obviously, I need to gain this experience, and just the idea of having one of my games on the Nintendo Switch, for example, would be so nice. Having like an actual copy, a retail copy, like a little box.
Yeah. Oh. Well, apparently Pinstripe is there's a retail copy for sale in Europe.
Oh man, I need to visit a store.
Yeah, I've one Serenity Forge, my publisher Serenity Forge, they kind of got the rights to release a physical copy in Europe, and I forgot about it. And that's something I'm trying to communicate with my audience is this is one of the benefits of having a publisher, which is you don't have to have the conversations that you don't want to have. And so you're going to have all these things working for you. They're obviously going to get some revenue from it, but they're going to handle a lot of this stuff.
It seems so worth it. Yeah.
It for me, it was. Now, for people like David Whaley, it's not, because he's able to manage all of it on his own, and he's just
depends your personality really, and what you enjoy doing. I guess some people even enjoy maybe porting to different consoles, and I don't know if they do, but maybe they do. I feel like
Matt Ty at Do Games, the porting company that does a lot of my games, or one of my games, I should say, which is half of my portfolio. He really enjoys it, and he started a whole company doing this, and he really loves the idea of taking on projects he enjoys playing, and it's part of what he loves to do. Now, for me, some companies, I can't say which one, because there's like NDAs you sign. Yeah. But some of these platforms, these console platforms, like imagine, okay, if you're going to join a new religion and they're like, here's your Bible. Well, you want it to be in your language, all in one book, and you're like, okay, I can learn what this religion is, but just extending the religion metaphor. But there's some consoles that they go, here's your Bible, and it's a compilation of Excel spreadsheets, Microsoft Word, some PowerPoints, and then some PDFs. And then some of it is you have to log in and like download XML files to figure stuff out. Oh, so it's this giant mess of all of these rules you have to adhere to be able to get your game on console. So it's not even that it's hard to like maybe learn their SDK.
It's just so unappealing.
The problem is it's how to learn it and how to like find where the resources are. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And I think it's part of their strategy, which is weed out all the people who aren't dedicated.
Yeah, maybe actually
just
that is
get the
true,
people.
Yeah. So the games that do end up on those platforms are by serious developers who really want to spend that time because they believe their game is good enough and it's going to do well on the,
right.
Yeah, sure, makes sense.
Right, or they have the money to pay someone to do it, which maybe that increases their credibility. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough.
But yeah, I'm most certain that I will definitely pay somebody to do it for me. It would be just take a real weight off me.
Yeah. Well, can I ask you about these courses? So, do you, if you don't mind talking about all this stuff, or if you do mind, just tell me and then I'll cut it out. But I'm curious if courses are a profitable route for you as a game developer.
Actually, it is my main source of income.
Okay. I figured.
Yeah.
And it will probably be mine the moment I release my courses.
You know, it's entirely possible, and I think it's going to do really well, especially with your audience. It's going to be doing great. But
appreciate that.
It was fascinating. The very first course I launched, which was how to make an action game, a top-down shooter game in Unity, that was in November of 2018. So more than 2 years ago now, I believe. No, a year and a half ago. And on the very first week, it made about $5,000. And,
wow.
And for me, that was like amazing.
Of course. That's crazy, man.
Just coming out.
Especially when you're 20.
Yeah, and I was 18 at the time. I just come out of high school. I was like, yes, this is excellent. And so ever since, it's just been doing so great. This is like my main source of income. And it's just, I'm doing nothing on the courses, except maybe, some, just a little bit of maintenance, but hardly. And it's just making me money, like just passive income while I sleep.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's really fun. That's
the kind of money you want to make, man. That's exactly like you definitely like. I'm definitely getting in that mentality as well, which is how do I create content, whether it's video games or courses or YouTube videos. How do I make that content quick and also systematic so that all of the stuff that the player needs or the viewer needs or the student needs, all of it is ready to go so that I don't have to touch it or even do any customer service.
Yes.
I just sit back and let it work for me. That's
great.
my goal.
And it's like such a joy to see people like learn from your courses and even like make all these clones of the game you show how to make in your course. It's so gratifying.
Right.
But it's only been great. Udemy courses, if you have something to teach and you feel like you're good enough, because I had already made tons of tutorials before releasing my first Udemy course. So I had lots of experience on video editing and hopefully like the right words to use when teaching about code, which is like a really tricky subject, and art and all that. So
I'm curious if you have some advice for me, because I'm working on a course. I don't plan on releasing it on Udemy. I plan on doing it
Skillshare or on your own website,
standalone website, and just run YouTube ads. And I'm curious if you have. So my goal with the course is to do it like a one-stop shop. And a lot of game developers out there, I think there's three problems. First, their problem is that they don't know how to finish something. So they need a coach to sort of cheer them over the line. Yeah. And that's what they're looking for, Yeah. And so that's one of the primary goals of my course, is to just be a coach and cheer people on and motivate them.
Great. So actually make videos about like your tips and tricks and finishing games.
Yeah. And and putting together a roadmap. So instead of a game design document, it's a game design Bible of like all of these mantras and philosophies and homework assignments for people to write out your vision. Like, what's your vision for your future? And how do you get there? And how do you motivate yourself to finish? I think those are really important aspects. They're courses.
Crucial. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's so many courses out there that teach technical skill, but they don't teach entrepreneurial skill. And so what I want to do is make a big chunk of the course about getting to the point where you're confident that you're going to finish it. So putting together that game design Bible. And the second thing I want to, a lot of game developers really struggle with is how to market themselves prior to launch and also during launch.
Maybe what are the things that you need to do? Topics in game development, and one of like such a crucial one, if you want to be more than just a hobbyist, is marketing.
Right.
So that'll be so valuable. I'm going to probably get your course actually, you can never. You can always learn stuff, and I'm sure, you'll have so much interesting things.
So I'm just curious if you think that that's a profitable route to take. Not everything's about profit, but I'm curious if you think that that's a good route to take.
I think it
as
is.
Opposed to just make technical courses.
I definitely think that going away from the technical, because there's so many already out there, as you know. So going down more that way, talking about entrepreneurship and finishing and marketing, it'll have a really nice audience. What I'm maybe a little concerned about, but after I have no clue, because I've only got experience launching on Udemy, and I do know that Udemy have pushed my courses a lot. Like a lot of my income has come purely from Udemy promoting it on the front page and stuff. Yeah. So hopefully your course will still get a nice audience, even if it's not on Skillshare or Udemy.
I think it comes down to if you're willing to invest $10,000-$20,000 in ads. I think that's the real question.
Okay, if you're planning on doing that, then I'll probably do well. Yeah.
But I don't know anything. I don't know anything about any of that. But the goal is to take. It's so cool. You probably experienced this as well, which is it's like a circular cycle of you make money from your games. You invest that into your courses. You make money from your courses. You invest that into your games.
Yeah.
And so the more that I do that, the more I'm willing to take on risks. So, for example, take on $10,000-$20,000 of ad funding to fund the course. That money comes from Neversong, because I made Neversong and money comes in from Neversong, and I'm able to invest that in the courses, and then that revenue from the courses
on your next game
help me make another game. Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
It's so
that's
great
the goal.
Yeah, all these different projects. I totally agree with that. Working on a course, a game, and just it's great.
I'll tell you what, man. I think we've had this has been a great conversation. I think it's been an hour and 20 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, I think it has. I'm not sure. An hour and 40 minutes, I believe, maybe. Or
my goodness,
I'm not sure.
I'm talking your ear off.
Oh man, you're so great at making fascinating conversations. Again,
thanks.
I've listened to quite a few of yours, and it's fantastic talking to you. Time flies. Really, it doesn't feel.
It does, man. You're smart as a whip, dude. You're 20 years old and you're killing it. Like when you're my age, I'm not that much older. Well, I guess I'm 9 years older than you.
Yeah.
When you're my age, you're gonna be killing it. Like absolutely killing it, because, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, there's so many developers out there who don't know how to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And you figured that out. And people can learn so much from you. So I want to encourage my audience to click the links in the description. Follow Noah at Blackthornprod YouTube channel, man. But also I'll include some links to your courses as well, because I'm sure they can learn a lot from you.
Sure. If people want to learn the more technical side of game creation, like arts and coding and stuff, and learn how to finish a project, because we always finish one, then definitely check out the courses.
Awesome, Noah. Well, is there anything else you wanted to mention before we close up here?
Well, just it was a pleasure talking, and that's definitely we'll want to talk more in the future. We've got a long game of careers ahead of us. I'm sure we're gonna join forces again.
Oh yeah, we'll probably be doing podcasts when I'm like 80 and you're 70.
Exactly, reminiscing about our long careers.
Yeah. Hey man, we'll probably both be billionaires by then.
I think so.
If I'm taking advice from you, I'll probably end up being a billionaire, because you have some really good points.
Oh man, well I think money will not be a trouble. I'm aiming for $1 million by next year, so I'll make a video about that. Share the success story.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, it's great talking to you. Thanks for taking the time.